Get in, losers. We're going speculating.
Act 5. Birds flying above the fire.
Warning, this portion of the podcast is 98% spoilers and like 2% snickering.
Seriously, we will spoil anything and everything in the series up through Nona the Ninth, and if that's not what you want, turn back now.
Marie, before we start anything else, how long do you think it's going to be before John texts us during this part of the record?
It's generally between like 5 and 15 minutes. So I don't think we'll be here for 15 minutes. So we'll just have to see. Maybe we will. I don't know.
But before we do anything else, my brain is on fire. So I was in and out during their rampant speculation. Sorry, team. But one of the things they were talking about at the end was like who is on these non-house planets and whether it is those trillionaires that got away. And we've talked about how we think that the trillionaires are basically doing quantum wheelies, right? And that's like what Jod is looking for and waiting for. However, one of the things I have and want to talk about this week is like who really are these people on these non-house planets? And so part of it is that I don't think that they are just like house rejects or escapees or migrants. And part of that is that they retain a whole bunch of old world stuff. So part of that is like the BOE names. But the thing that hit me this week was Pash saying "oorah."
Yes.
It was like this moment when you're like, they really have retained this 10,000-year-old set of references, set of like norms. And so what do you think about this?
I wonder if this comes up, although I don't think the timeline works that way either. I would love to have some sort of a theory where it's actually Cassie.
That works too, to some degree. Or we don't know how much material she provided to them, how much she conveyed or transmitted.
But that it might be Cassie who literally put people and seated them somewhere else so that they were outside of Jod's control and then came back later and gave them this information. But I don't think that quite works with what we know. But again, what we know is that we don't know anything. So I'm not...
Fair enough.
I can poke holes in my own theory pretty easy.
Yeah, that's always a problem. We know that there are whatever tugboats or whatever that are supposed to kind of have some way of pinging these FTL ships to tell them where and when to come out. So it's possible that these are the descendants of those. These
are the tugboats.
And it's also possible that there were some old world people who already were on some sort of generation ship before everything went down. But I just thought it was interesting.
We don't have the whole story for anything. Because it's also, there's multiple ships. Basically, he is just talking about the fact of he had one of them in his hand. And so it could be that the other ones got away completely. And the one that he touched is the one that is still
out there
doing quantum wheelies, and that's why he cares about that specific ship. Because no, it doesn't make sense to necessarily continue this vengeance against the descendants, because who fucking cares?
But those were the original people. Those were the original trillionaires on that ship that he can punish. That's a great point. I fucking love that.
I think there's a lot of these things where it's just it's in my mind of this is just how I read it, and I didn't realize that this is actually just I'm yeah, everybody has come to that conclusion, right? But I think that all along I have been reading it as there were multiple ships in the first wave. He's watching them all leave, and he holds on to one of them right before it spins up and goes. And so it's basically that moment of him holding on to it could be the thing that messed them up so that they don't get their ping to get pulled out of FTL. And so they're still in that weird quantum space.
I actually really like that he interfered with them in some way. And also it's personal for him now because he felt what those people felt like. You know what I mean? That he has this
and he could
permanent
find
connection.
Exactly them.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot. Big fan of that. Yeah. Okay. So that was one of my big things. The other big thing is, what the fuck are you doing, you crazy Neptune? What you up to? What's your goal here? The conversation between the captain and Nona is really interesting. I mean, it's obvious that the RBs want vengeance.
The thing that I got stuck on this time in the conversation is why the number 8,000?
Yeah, dude, same. I was like, where is that coming from? Were there 8,000 people on Neptune and adjacent at the time?
Right.
We know that they were building some sort of stations out in different places, but there's no reason to believe that one already was there. Maybe it was. It's the third house, right? No, that's not right.
Is Neptune
we think the third house is Neptune.
Kuiper belt?
No, it would be before the Kuiper belt.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if like maybe they had started working on a station on Mars. That's the second house. And maybe they already had started working on one on Neptune. So maybe there were people stationed out there. But I thought that was really weird and awfully specific. And then the other thing that's obviously fucking awesome is talking about this tower and how they're coming out of the tower.
I think that the connections I made this time around was that it's when he sees the nun's soul, he can then touch Earth. And I think that goes into this, the Earth is partially the collective soul of humanity as well. Like
yes.
There's a piece of that. So like each person does have their own soul. And so like people are probably kind of weird when it comes to planets of like this, it's kind of like this soul melange kind of conversation where them kind of rubbing up against the soul of the planet and being so intimately connected to the planet, like then means that when you touch a human soul, you see the planet's soul. So I think there's one piece there. And then I think this might just be something where like it's a little bit of like bleeding into and going into a little bit of Catholic theology, which is that like the all dogs go to heaven. Like the Catholic theology is that no, dogs don't go to heaven because the only souls that like have to worry about this or that have an eternal, it's not that dogs don't have a soul, it's just not an eternal soul.
Okay.
It's not going to live on
distinction.
Past the dog.
Got it.
Right? So like that's like in other words, like obviously you shouldn't treat things as though they don't matter or they're just an object or whatever. Like animals are special and wonderful, but they're not going to go to heaven. There is no dog heaven.
Sure.
Like that is like technically my understanding of Catholic theology. So I think it's kind of interesting because it does kind of map on to this as well, which is planets have a soul and everything that goes with a planet has a soul and it matters, but also there's something different about human souls.
Right. There's something special about human souls. Yeah. That the planet's soul is the collection of all the microbial life and whatever, but also like human souls are kind of this weird combo of being part of the planet and being distinct from the planet. Right.
Yes. And so then like one of the very first things that Alecto says is, where did you put the people?
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I guess the very first question is, what did you do to me?
Sure.
And then where did you put the people?
Yeah. It's where are all the organisms or like everything touching me is dead. Like
yeah, and I think that it comes up to like, okay, so then John brought up that I think he said the phrase, so does that mean Jod did something weird? Like did he stop up the river? Did he like mess up with the flow or did he do something like this? And we're like, that is exactly what we think happened based on this.
Yeah. No, I think this is exactly right. And so like the tower, if you think of it as the tower is somehow like something that anchored death, something that like created a stoppage in the river in some meaningful way, and also clearly Canaan House, and also clearly where he hid his bodies. This thing that the captain says, really Varun saying through the captain, they are coming out of their tower, salt thing, which clearly references the devils, the demons. I can't remember which word she uses for them. It's interesting to me that Varun can feel it. It's interesting to me like what instigated it. And I also don't totally understand. The planets don't seem to have like just an individual vengeance. At least Varun seems to like see Earth as like a little sister. It's got a protective quality and I will help you quality. I like, what did he do to you? As opposed to just what did he do to me? That there's something so much more hideous and horrible about what he did to Earth than just the murder of these other planets.
Well, it's a desecration of the body.
Yes.
But there's also something as well that this is my unhinged theory.
Send it.
For this time around, which is that it's not just that John takes some of Alecto's soul and puts it in him and then he can't take it all in. So then he puts it in this other vessel and makes her a hideousness. It's also that he put some of himself in her. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's talking about the vessel. So my new unhinged theory is that the tower and the facility is where John has his piece
Ooh, hidden in the context of the larger like Earth Electo thing. This is super interesting. I love this detail of him eating soil, of eating earth, because part of the lictor process is consumption. And next episode, we'll get to Paul and we'll see that actually they do a mutual eating. Camilla's body eats both some of Palamdes and some of Camilla and combines it into one. And I like the idea that for Electo and John, it was an exchange of consumption in some weird fucked up way. Yeah.
It also then comes up to like, how is Electo part of his doom, right? And so it must have something to do with like maybe it's like this stupid Horcrux kind of, sorry for the reference, right? Like kind of situation where they have like their souls are fragmented.
Yeah. Well, clearly, I mean, it's exactly, I think you're right. You can't just kill Jod by killing John and his body, because some part of him is hidden in Electo. Some part of him still exists and perdures as long as she's there. I think that's really interesting. Okay. Despite all this like Electo Jod stuff, what do we think Varun is doing sending in the heralds right now? Or is that just kind of like...
She screams for help.
Okay. She literally screamed for help. That's true. Okay. And Varun was like, no worries. I shall send in my soldiers. I feel better about that.
Yeah, no, she says, don't do anything weird before they go off to do this, right? Like
days ago.
She basically says like days ago, she says, don't do anything weird. And then in the facility, when she doesn't know what to do and she's supposed to act like the captain, she screams for help.
Yeah, she just yells help. That's right. Okay, I feel better about this. I wanted to point out a couple of just kind of interesting things about RBs. One is We Suffer says, no planet killer has attacked a planet like this in my lifetime. And what that suggests to me is that BOE has records of a planet killer attacking planets in the past. I thought that was kind of interesting, which means someone must have survived. The other thing that is interesting is Pyrrha says that she had thought that it would go dormant after it killed her necromancer, because that's what it did after it killed Cassie. But I don't think it did kill Cassie. And so I think that's kind of an interesting... I don't know what it was doing during that time. It made me wonder if like during that dormancy period, it was doing something else, including convening with Cassie. The other thing that is really just, I only caught on this reread and is really just like an internal personal reference to me and probably is not real, but routinely, Nona and the captain at multiple different parts say, It's like, it's something that happens actually like 6 or 7 different times across the book. And to me, did you ever watch Spirited Away? Okay. Miyazaki movies are some of my all-time faves. We might have to do it as a bonus. And Spirited Away is a masterpiece. But there's this character who, for the first kind of part of the movie, only can speak in terms of like, And all this character wants in the fucking world is to give the main character, the protagonist, enough things that she will love him. And it can't be done because giving is not like, it's not enough to just, it's this like really heartbreaking. It's No Face for everybody who's like seen it. This No Face is sitting there just saying, and holding, hands out like this, trying to like manifest gold, manifest, it's just like gifts in order to buy love, and it can't be done. And so that's what I think of whenever the RBs do it. Okay. That's all I have on RBs, but I have one more thing that I do want to talk about, which is that this is the chapter where Pyrrha says, gee, you died for nothing. This is interesting twice. And I only realized it was interesting twice on this reread. Obviously, this suggests that Pyrrha retains knowledge of the before times and who G was and his name and what he meant to her. Because she doesn't say, Gideon, you died for nothing. She says G ... But also, I don't think she says G ... Presumably she says his fucking name, which means that Nona can't hear it. In the same way that like Harrow's body, every time someone would say Gideon, she heard Ortis, or she would just start bleeding. Like there's...
I don't know if it's that. I take this as... The way that I take this is that it is purely a literary device. That we, the reader, don't get to know G's name.
Okay. God, and see... That would make perfect sense, except I'm so fucking hung up on the number of times that Tamsin has burned me on me thinking that things are metaphors and literary devices that I'm probably going way too far off the other end. You're right, I probably am. Because definitely we can't know.
Yeah, when it's used in like Victorian literature or whatever, it's like
No, I hear you. I just think it's like an
used.
interesting phenomenon that what we're hearing here corresponds so directly with what she hears in the dreams. And it really just makes me wonder if she's not capable of hearing or understanding the true meaning and the true words before. But let's assume that Pyrrha was saying, Joffrey, you died for nothing. Sorry. The only Joffrey in the world for me is also the, Jesus Christ, the
giraffe.
No, I love that.
Sorry.
I was thinking of Prince Joffrey, although that's actually a J now that I think about it.
Yeah, it's like, that's
never mind then.
Like fantasy spelling. Nobody spells their name Joffrey.
Except for Geoffrey Rush, aka Captain Barbossa. We have to do pirates. Anyway, I have nothing else pertinent to say. Do you have anything you want to bring up?
Have anything pertinent to say? I wanted to talk about the 8,000 unjust bodies. They're coming out of their tower. The tower is jawed. Yep, I said everything. Okay, cool. Act 6. See you next time, my little nunlets. Well, looks like we've got to prepare ourselves for a transformation. 2 become 1. Hannah, are you ready?
Always, Marie.
It's not going to be, it's not with me. It's fine. So we will be back next week for Nona the Ninth Chapters 28 and 29. If you want to follow along with us, our reading calendar is available on our website at frontline5th.podbean.com, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, which are linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And of course, if you didn't enjoy the podcast, feel free to lie. We have a Patreon, which you can join for access to bonus content every month. You can become a patron, and they never press the big red button on their suitcase nukes at patreon.com/frontline5th. And you can check out our merch at our Redbubble store, linked in the show notes. Everything's linked in the show notes, except for when I say there's something linked in the show notes, in which case you can definitely bet that it won't be linked. Finally, if you have any fun theories you'd like to share with us, feel free to email us at frontline5th@gmail.com, which we will check sometime. With that, I'll just remind you not to unlock any tombs or enter any doors without permission because you know ghosts. Bye!
Frontline 5th is a Locked Tomb podcast conceived by Maria Adamako and starring Maria Adamako, Hannah Grunwald, Brooke Anderson, and John Ryan. Our cover art was designed and created by Maria Adamako, who also edited this episode. Our fabulous music was composed and recorded by Blake Anderson. Sonia Grunwald designs our killer merch. Hot! Gorgeous! The Locked Tomb series is a completely dope-ass book series by Tamsin Muir, who does not know we exist and is in no way affiliated with this podcast.